All right, let's talk about a word we all think we get: landscape. But as we're about to see, this simple idea is actually one of the most complex and honestly one of the most argued over concepts in all of geography.
I mean, we all have a picture in our heads, don't we? When I say landscape, you probably think of a beautiful view, right? A mountain range, a dramatic coastline, maybe a city skyline at sunset. It's the world out there, something to be looked at and admired.
But here's the twist, and this is where things get really fascinating. What if that view is also, in a way, viewing you? What if the world outside your window isn't just some passive backdrop, but an active force that's shaping how you think and how you feel and how you act every single day? To really get our heads around this, we're going to start by breaking down the word itself, because believe it or not, buried inside its origin story is a much more dynamic idea than just a pretty picture.
The key is that second part, scape. It's the root of our modern word shape. So right from the very beginning, the word landscape wasn't about a static picture. It was about an action, the shaping and creating of land. It suggests this constant two-way street. People shape the land, and in turn, the land shapes the people.
Geographers have been wrestling with this forever, and the debate really boils down to these three big tensions. Is landscape a real physical thing, a territory, or is it all in our heads, just a way of seeing? Is it an object out there that we observe? Or is it the subjective feeling of actually living in it? And is a landscape ever really done, like a finished painting? Or is it always a work in progress?
So how did we even start to unpack these ideas? Well, let's look at some of the traditional ways geographers first tried to get a handle on this. Their first instinct, naturally, was to try and categorize what they saw.
Early on, this hugely influential geographer, Carl Sauer, came up with a simple but really powerful formula. You can almost think of it like a recipe. You start with your raw ingredients, the natural landscape. Then you add your active agent, a culture group, which works on the land over a long time. And what do you get in the end? A cultural landscape.
Sauer's own words put it perfectly. Culture is the agent, like the artist. The natural world is just the passive medium, the clay or the canvas. It's a really clear, powerful way to see humanity's fingerprint on the world.
Now, taking a slightly different angle, W.G. Hoskins gave us another great metaphor, the palimpsest. A palimpsest is an old manuscript that's been scraped clean and written over, but you can still see faint traces of the original text underneath. For Hoskins, landscape was just like that, a historical document. He was pretty nostalgic about it, often seeing modern things like highways and power lines as ugly scars covering up a more beautiful past.
But then, in the 1970s, everything changed. I mean, there was this massive shift in thinking. The focus moved away from the physical land itself and turned inward, to the mind of the person who's actually doing the looking.
This quote from geographer Donald Meinig completely flips the script. It means the landscape isn't just out there. A huge part of it is in here. Our memories, our values, our profession, our culture, they all act like filters, shaping everything we see.
So Meinig famously argued that 10 people could look at the exact same scene and see 10 totally different landscapes. For example, a conservationist looks out and sees nature, an enduring wilderness threatened by people. A farmer sees habitat, a home, a place of work and life. An engineer, they see an artifact, a world that's been built and conquered by human technology. A hydrologist sees a system, a scientific flow of energy and water. And a city planner might look at the same thing and see a problem, a design flaw that needs fixing.
And the list just keeps going. A real estate developer sees wealth, land that's valued in dollars and cents. A political scientist sees ideology, a symbol of a nation's power and values. An historian sees that palimpsest we just talked about, a layered record of the past. A local resident just sees place, their home, a unique spot filled with memories and feelings. And an artist? They see an aesthetic object, a beautiful composition of line and color. 10 different worlds, all overlaid on the very same patch of ground.
Okay, so if every view is subjective, the next logical question is, are any of these ways of seeing neutral? Well, the answer from modern geography is a resounding no, and this is where we get into the politics of the view.
So in the 1980s, this idea of the cultural turn introduced the concept of landscape as a text. The thinking is that landscapes are kind of like books written by a culture, and if you learn how to read them, you can uncover the values, the beliefs, and, this is the important part, the power structures of the society that created them.
A guy named Dennis Cosgrove argued that the whole idea of admiring scenery is what he called a bourgeois way of seeing. Basically, it's a perspective of the wealthy, landowning class. It's a luxury, right? It distances the viewer from the messy reality of the land, turning it from a place where people work into a decorative object you just look at. And feminist geographers added that this commanding, detached gaze is also often a masculine one, implying ownership and control.
But what if it's not just about seeing or reading? What if the landscape itself is actively doing something? This brings us to our final and really critical layer: landscape as work.
Geographer Don Mitchell came along and pushed back against that purely symbolic view. He said, it's not enough to just read the landscape like it's a poem. A landscape is a machine. It's a system that produces value and reproduces the social order day in and day out.
Mitchell's brilliant insight is that landscape is two things at once. First, it's a verb. It actively does work on us. A fence, a road, a gated community, these things physically guide our movements and tell us where we belong and where we don't. But second, landscape is also a noun. It is the physical result of work, what he calls the dead labor of countless, often invisible workers who actually built the world we see. And this brings us to Mitchell's most famous idea, the duplicity of landscape. He says it functions just like a theater curtain. It presents this beautiful finished scene, a lovely park, a perfect suburb, while hiding all the messy, often exploitative social struggles and labor that went on behind the curtain to create it. So where does all this leave us? We've gone from a simple picture on a wall all the way to a complex political machine. Let's try and bring these ideas together for a final, modern take.
The thinking today argues that we have to move beyond just looking at landscape. We don't just observe it, we dwell in it. A landscape is created through our constant bodily engagement with the world. The feeling of our feet on the pavement, the rhythm of our work, the sounds and smells of our neighborhood. It's an ongoing lived-in experience.
So the next time you look out your window, what are you going to see? Will it still be just a pretty picture? Or will you now see the historical text, the competing ways of seeing, the system of power, and the hidden story of work? What does your landscape say about you and the world you live in?